final signature event this season on the PGA Tour, and with world number one Scottie Scheffler as the defending champion. If you look at last week at the U.S. Open, finished 70-70 on the weekend. If he had made anything, he could have been a really serious factor down the stretch, ultimately having a T7 finish at Oakmont. Only one player was under par last week, with J.J. Spaun the winner at 100. It's going to be a very different story this week at the Travelers Championship with soft conditions. You figure around 20 under could win it this week. So I asked Scottie, if for those who haven't experienced it before, what's the contrast like going from the U.S. Open at Oakmont to this week, the Travelers Championship at TPC River Highlands?
I think this is a good test. I think it's a fair test. Oakmont was very challenging last week, and that was a good test as well. But here, it definitely feels like a bit more of a relaxing week. You have with the major championship being last week, it's nice to come here to Cromwell and get relaxed. And I had a couple really nice rest days, and this tournament's just really fun. The crowds are always really great, and you can get out here and make some birdies. There always seems to be pretty exciting finishes as well.
We've seen a few times in your career you've been able to go back-to-back and defend titles. You're defending champion this week. What's been the key in those instances?
Well, I don't really think there's much to it. I think, last year's tournament. I don't have any starting strokes this week, so we're at even par. And, last year didn't really matter.
2024 version of Scottie Scheffler with right now, do you think it's the same guy?
You probably haven't seen many of my interviews before. I get these questions a lot, and I don't really think about that stuff. I don't compare. I'm just trying to stay in the present and do the best I can.
And if you want to stay in the present, when you feel like your game is at your peak version of Scottie Scheffler, how do you define greatness?
I define success for me as showing up, being prepared for the tournament, and then having a good attitude. And most of my success is defined kind of by how mentally I'm approaching shots, and that's what I focus on.
Is that a tough follow after the U.S. Open, or is that easy to carry it from week to week after a major?
I don't know if easy is the right word to carry week to week, but that's the approach I try to take week to week. I'm not focused on the results of things. I'm trying to be prepared and get out there and try and execute and make sure I'm thinking properly and have a good attitude.
Scottie, loath to compare seasons and giving me a per my last email, but I'm going to break it down for you. Last year, he had 11 consecutive top 10s from Pebble to the Memorial. During that time, ripped off 5 of his 7 wins. Right now, 8 consecutive top 10s coming into this week's Travelers Championship, including 3 victories. Remember, he was injured at the beginning of the season, so started about a month later. So it seems like Scottie is primed for another tear, this one happening the latter half of the PGA Tour schedule. He has those 3 victories on the year. He's tied with Rory McIlroy, world number 2, for the most wins on the PGA Tour this season. For McIlroy, a disappointing week at the U.S. Open, which at least ended on a high note with that final round 67 tying the low round of the day. It was a top 20 finish. I asked Rory why it was important for him to add the Travelers Championship back to his schedule.
I missed it last year. Yeah, and I made a commitment to Travelers after that, and I said I'd definitely play this year, so I wanted to honor that commitment. And yeah, I think it's a funny one playing the week after the majors. I think when you're in contention and you have a chance to win them, playing the week after can be somewhat difficult. But if you have a week like I had last week at Oakmont where you're never really in contention and you're not really part of the mix, sometimes you're looking forward to playing the next week to try to, if you feel like you found something in your game or have a little bit of momentum, which I sort of felt like I found last weekend, you're sort of looking forward to getting back on the horse and going again.
You closed with that 67. How tangible is momentum to carry over week to week versus round to round?
Yeah, it is. I was encouraged by a lot of things last week. I led strokes gained off the tee, which is the first time I've done that in a while. And obviously all the chatter coming in was about the driver and off the tee, and so to see that come around and get back to where I need it to be or where it usually is was a big deal for me, and that's something I'm obviously trying to carry into this week and obviously for the rest of the season too.
You have this amazing cathartic release after the Masters, emotional moment for you, powerful moment for the fans. It seemed like you were set up for a victory lap for the rest of the year. I don't know if the expectations and reality have necessarily synced up. What have you been experiencing, and how do you think that's going to propel you for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I would say, I've probably been in a little bit of a bit of a funk or like a flat period and trying to find trying to find reasons to keep going. I guess, when you do something like I alluded to it on Sunday, when you finally achieve something you've wanted to do your whole life. I've played 5 events since Augusta already. Like, I feel like I haven't really caught my breath. Other sports and other athletes, they can win a Super Bowl or an NBA championship and they go and they, disappear for 4 or 5 months and they can really, really enjoy it. It's a little different in golf. So I've just been trying to deal with that and balance that and trying to put enough time in to, because I still want to play tournaments, but I don't want to show up and not play the way I know I can play. So it's that balance between trying to really enjoy what I've done, but at the same time put enough work in to know that when I come and I show up at these events that I'm getting the best out of myself as well.
How do you think you'll know you've found it?
I think when I'm excited to go play again. Not that I'm not excited, but I think there has to be. It's been this, as you said, the cathartic release and everything that happened, but then paired with not playing well at the same time. I think that's been a part of this whole thing. So I think seeing signs of my game and seeing signs of life where I want my game to be, like last weekend, especially off the tee, that gives me excitement. It gives me enthusiasm to keep going and to see what I have this week and see where I go from there. So I'm looking forward to playing this week. There's certainly been some events after the Masters that I maybe haven't been quite as excited for, and I'm, as I said, looking forward to getting back on the horse and playing again.
I think golf fans want to see the excitement out of Rory McIlroy, the Rory McIlroy we had at the beginning of the year who went on that tear, winning the Players and the Masters. So good to hear him saying he's looking forward to this week at the Travelers Championship, was hitting the driver well last Sunday. Hopefully that carries over to TPC River Highlands. If so, he could be a big factor this week. Anna?